This is my first time hearing of the artist Albert Karch, who is a Polish jazz and modern classical musician. Based on what I've seen of his discography so far, he seems to be collaborating with each album with different artists every time. Like I say, I haven't heard any of those ones, but you may recognize the name Ichiko Aoba, who is on this very album. And if you know me well, you will know that I adore Ichiko Aoba's music. So of course, the minute I heard this album came out, because I found out about it like a week later, I was instantly ready to play it. And I did. As soon as I got out of my class, which I was in, I put the headphones in and played this album. I genuinely think Ichiko is one of the best artists of the decade, one of the most consistent discographies so far. Of course, I was hyped to hear this, even if it's not her album, and even if there are a few tracks on the album where she doesn't do anything on it at all. Of course, it isn't her album, so that does make sense. But of course, seeing her name was what really sold me on listening to this in the first place. Unfortunately, though, I will say this has been quite a disappointing listen. Unfortunately, we've got a sad review here. Now, this hasn't completely put me off checking out this guy's music. Of course, I shouldn't just stray away from it completely, but I am very much underwhelmed with a lot of the instrumental work on this album. You have the flute introduction, which doesn't really set up the album in any particular way. It is literally just flute, and that's it. There's very little to this track. There's not really much of an interesting melody being played. It doesn't really sound in any particular way. It just sounds like you'd expect a flute to sound with nothing really else going on. And there are many other tracks that are instrumental too, which are, again, not really tickling my fancy. You have Celestially Light 4, which is just the same piano progression repeated over and over again. And as the track progresses, which is a bit of a loose word because it doesn't really progress much, to be honest, other instruments do get thrown in. Some bells get thrown in. I think I hear a triangle at one point, maybe some woodwind instruments too. And the lack of progression is not helped by the fact that it draws on and on and on for 10 minutes. It's a 10-minute track. I really do not know why that runtime is justified, because I can't see it at all. And it just evokes no emotional response out of me. I feel like it's one of those albums where upon someone else's ears, you could get something really, really lovely out of this. And because it is nice enough, I suppose, occasionally you do pick up some really lovely melodies, but I'm just not really getting that much out of it. Similarly with the Celestially Light 5 reprise, again, it goes on for pretty long. I'm just not seeing what justifies it. Again, simple presentation with lots of different instruments kind of playing off of each other. It's nice, I guess. It just is really, really simple and gets nothing out of me. Equally as underwhelming as Ichiko's tracks too. I did say she's on this album, obviously. I haven't really mentioned her yet, but her vocals work nicely with some of the instrumentals that Albert provides. But again, I'm just struggling, really. There's little to no progression of the 7-minute track To My, which I just think needs something, because even Ichiko's solo work has that. You know, you'll have different passageways, you'll segue into different things on tracks that are, again, presented in a very simple fashion, but I think she makes it work by throwing in her own little quirks and ideas that take the tracks beyond just being, you know, little piano tracks or little acoustic guitar tracks. And for as long and as pretty monotonous as that track is, on the opposite end of the scale, the last two tracks feel unfinished. You've just got Ichiko kind of like riffing over these piano instrumentals, and then the last track is a spoken word little piece, which probably would help if I understood the language. I do think that track in particular is a moment where I think I should probably I should probably look into the translations to benefit from it. But usually I'm of the mindset that, you know, I don't think language really is a barrier when it comes to music, and that's never really been a problem with Ichiko, but on this album it just seems to be. So yeah, I think this is quite a letdown of an album. I suppose I didn't expect anything because, again, it was a surprise to hear this album had come out. So I suppose, pardon me, I shouldn't be too disappointed when I didn't even know it was going to exist. But at this point, I am wondering, what can Ichiko Aoba do next with her music? Of course, this is a collaboration, but even still, as a collaboration, it isn't really stretching her talents any further than what we've already heard before. What can she do next? What's next for her sound? Because I think it could eventually get a bit dull if she keeps putting out similar types of music, but we'll see. Maybe she'll surprise us in the future. She might put out an album next year or the year after that's completely fresh and unique, and I'm excited to see where she takes her sound. But unfortunately here though, it is pretty meh. Not really getting much out of this at all. Gonna go 5 out of 10. But don't be put off by that. I mean, this is as subjective as music can get, I think. You know, ambient type music, instrumental type music. I think that's the very definition of subjective opinions, because to my ears this sounds dull, but to someone else's ears this could sound beautiful. So I don't want to stray anyone away from this just because I've said it's a 5 out of 10. So do let me know your thoughts if you've checked it out. Thank you for watching my review. Hope you got something out of it. Do have a good day. Bye, subscribe, please, goodbye.